The card game that changed everything. Vincent Crawford sat in his mahogany-paneled office on the 42nd floor. Watching the city lights flicker below like dying stars, he had built his real estate empire from nothing. Clawing his way up through decades of ruthless deals and calculated risks, now at 63. With silver hair perfectly combed and a $3,000 suit draped over his shoulders, he ruled over Crawford Properties like a king surveying his kingdom. But lately, the victories felt hollow. The phone on his desk buzzed. His assistant's voice crackled through. "Mr. Crawford, your 4 o'clock is here, send them in," he replied. Not looking up from the contract he was reviewing, the door opened, and a woman in her late 30s entered. Her cleaning uniform, still bearing the company logo behind her. Clutching her hand stood a boy of about 12 with bright, watchful eyes. Maria Torres had worked as a cleaner in his building for 8 years. Vincent barely knew her name until yesterday, when his building manager reported she had been caught leaving 15 minutes early to pick up her son from school. Company policy was clear, and Vincent had never been one to make exceptions. "Mrs. Torres," Vincent said, his voice cold and professionally. "You understand why you're here." Maria's hands trembled slightly as she nodded. "Mr. Crawford, please, I know I broke the rules, but my son Elias has been having trouble at school. The other kids, they bully him because we don't have much. I promised I would be there when he gets out. I only did it 3 times." Vincent leaned back in his leather chair. "Rules exist for a reason. Mrs. Torres, if I make an exception for you, I have to make exceptions for everyone. Then where does it end?" Maria's eyes glistened, but she stood straight. "Awry. Understand. Siri just hoped you might give me one more chance. My son and I, we don't have anyone else. His father passed away 4 years ago. This job is everything to us." Vincent glanced at the boy. Elias, the kid, stood quietly, his second-hand jacket too small for his growing frame. But there was something in his eyes that caught Vincent's attention. Intelligence mixed with quiet dignity. The boy wasn't begging or crying, just observing everything with an unusual stillness. An idea formed in Vincent's mind, born from a place he didn't quite understand. Perhaps it was boredom, or maybe some buried part of himself he thought had died long ago. "You play cards, kid?" Vincent asked suddenly. Elias looked surprised, but nodded slowly. "My dad taught me before he died." "Sir, we used to play every Sunday." Vincent stood and walked to a cabinet. Pulling out a pristine deck of cards, "Here's my offer. Mrs. Torzer's son and I play 1 game of poker. If he wins, you keep your job with no mark on your record. If I win, you're terminated effective immediately. No second chances." Maria's face went pale. "He's just a child. He's 12 years old." Vincent interrupted. "Old enough to understand consequences. What do you say? Elias, you willing to play for your mother's job?" Elias looked up at his mother, then back at Vincent. His young face was serious beyond his years. "What kind of poker?" "Sir, 5-card draw," Vincent replied, impressed despite himself. "Best out of 3 hands." The boy hesitated only a moment before nodding. Maria started to protest, but Elias squeezed her hand. "It's okay. Mom, Dad taught me well." Remembered, they sat at Vincent's conference table, the city sprawling below them. Vincent dealt the cards with practiced ease, expecting this to be over quickly. He had been playing poker since he was 20. In backroom games where fortunes changed hands, a 12-year-old kid didn't stand a chance. But as the first hand progressed, Vincent felt the first flicker of uncertainty. The boy played conservatively, but intelligently, folding when he should and calling when the odds favored him. Vincent won the first hand, but not as easily during the second hand. Elias's strategy shifted. He became more aggressive, reading Vincent's tells with unsettling accuracy. When Vincent bluffed on a weak hand, the boy called him without hesitation. Elias won the second hand. Maria stood by the window, her hands clasped together, barely breathing. The third hand would decide everything. Vincent dealt the cards, his confidence shaken. He had underestimated this kid badly as they played. Elias spoke quietly. "My dad was a security guard at a casino before he got sick," he said. "Poker wasn't about the cards you hold, but about understanding people." He said, "You can tell everything about a person by how they play." Vincent felt something shift in his chest. "What did your father tell you about?" Mila studied his cards, then looked up. "He'd never met you, sir, but if he had, I think he would have said, 'You're scared not.'" Of losing this game, but of something bigger. Vincent's hand froze. Excuse. You built all this. Elias gestured at the office. But you're alone in it. My mom told me you work 16 hours a day, you never take vacation, you fire people for being 15 minutes late, that's not strength. Sir, my dad said that's what fear looks like when it wins. The words hit Vincent like a physical blow. This child, this 12-year-old boy with a worn jacket and holes in his shoes, had seen through him in minutes, had identified the truth. Vincent had been running from for decades. He was terrified of being vulnerable, of showing weakness, of admitting he might need something money couldn't buy. Vincent looked at his cards, and suddenly the game felt absurd. What was he doing? Forcing a child to gamble for his mother's livelihood. When had he become this person? He laid his cards face down on the table. You win, he said quietly. Elias blinked in surprise. But we haven't finished the Hondi. No, Vincent replied, but you've already won something more important. You showed me something I'd forgotten. Maria rushed forward. Mr. Crawford. Thank you. Thank you so much. Vincent held up his hand. Mrs. Torres. You're not just keeping your jobium, promoting you to building supervisor with a salary increase in Elias. Starting next month, Crawford Properties will fund a scholarship for you any school you want to attend. Both mother and son stared at him in shock. I don't understand, Maria whispered. Vincent stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city he had conquered but never truly lived in. Your son just taught me that winning isn't everything sometimes. The real victory is remembering why we're playing in the first place. My father died when I was young. Toei spent my whole life proving I didn't need anyone, that I could make it alone, and I did, but somewhere along the way, I forgot what I was making it for. He turned back to them. I've been so focused on building an empire that I forgot to build a life. To have something I lost a long time ago. You have each other and you fight for each other. That's worth more than any property I own. Elias stood and extended his small hand. Thank you, Mr. Crawford. Vincent shook it, feeling the boy's firm grip. No, Elias, thank you for reminding an old man what really matters. As they left his office, Vincent sat back in his chair for the first time in decades. The view from his window looked different. The city wasn't just buildings and deals anymore. It was people, families, lives intersecting in ways that mattered far more than profit margins. He picked up the phone. Can sell my evening meetings, he told his assistant. All of them, and starting tomorrow, I want to review our employee policies. It's time we remembered that business is about people, not just numbers. Vincent Crawford had spent his life winning, but that afternoon, a 12-year-old boy with wisdom beyond his years had shown him that sometimes losing your way is the first step to finding something real. The cards sat on the table, the final hand unfinished, but the game already won by both players in ways neither had expected. Because kindness, Vincent realized, isn't a weakness to be avoided, but a strength to be embraced. It's never too late to remember that. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that remind us what truly matters in life. Leave a comment below about a time someone's kindness changed your perspective. Your story might inspire someone else today.